Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting of the Virtual Tasting Society. I am Vadim Perlovsky, and today I'm excited to welcome back Mitch McDonald. Mitch is joining us again to showcase a new brand under his portfolio. You may remember him from Joseph Magnus and Company. We tasted a little bit of Coppercraft last year. Today we are tasting Fox and Oden, a brand that I've been very curious about. They have some of those beautiful bottles on the market right now. They have 4 different expressions, all of which we are going to taste. But I don't want to step on Mitch's toes. He'll tell us all about those. So we're excited to taste those. We do have the bourbon, double oak bourbon, rye, and then single malt, and then 2 Coppercraft expressions to try. Mitch, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us what order we're going to taste in so we can line them all in front of us.
Yeah, for sure. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see some familiar faces in the room. And for those of you who I haven't met, hopefully I'll meet you in person at a whiskey event at some point soon. But yeah, like Vadim said, my name is Mitch McDonald. I work for Blue Ridge Spirits and Wine Marketing. It's kind of a unique situation I'm in because there's a lot of people out there in the alcohol industry who work for brands. There's a lot of people out there who work for distributors. And then there's a few people like myself where we're kind of fortunate to work with a small portfolio of brands. So some people may call what I do more along the lines of a brokerage. But we also have an importing license, so we import some of our single malts, and we have our own marketing department. So a lot of moving parts at Blue Ridge, but what's nice is that it allows us to have kind of a hand-selected portfolio, and we try not to walk on our own toes too often, and that have competing brands that are in our portfolio. But one of my favorite brands that we represent by a long shot would be the Craft Co. umbrella of brands. And Craft Co. is not a name many people know because nothing's under the brand of Craft Co. Craft Co. is the ownership group that owns Joseph Magnus, Coppercraft, and Fox and Oden. So that it's kind of hard to really talk much about Fox and Oden or Coppercraft for that matter, unless you talk about Joseph Magnus just briefly. I think a lot of you guys in the room are familiar with the brand. But for those of you who aren't, this is my Magnus bottle here. If you've seen that out, and if you haven't had this, by all means, find a way to try a pour of it because it's a pretty fantastic whiskey. But that whole brand came to be just from a gentleman who found an old bottle of whiskey in his attic that had his family name on it and family crest on it, and he's trying to learn more about it, and eventually found out that his great-great-grandfather was a bourbon distiller and had a distillery that was closed because of prohibition and never reopened. And he found it fascinating, tried to learn as much as he could, and eventually decided he wanted to reopen the distillery or relaunch the brand, so to speak. Got some investors involved, and that's exactly what they did. They put together kind of a dream team, if you will, of whiskey people. Had an ex-master blender from Woodford Reserve, ex-distillery GM from Buffalo Trace, and then Nancy Fraley, or Nancy the Nose, as she's known. Come in, they opened that bottle, and they tried to replicate it, and that's how they launched Joseph Magnus. So Magnus has been around since 2015. They've had some great success over the years, and with that, they outgrew their facility. They were originally, well, I shouldn't say originally, because pre-prohibition, they were in Cincinnati, the original Magnus facility. But when they relaunched the brand in 2015, they were actually in Washington, D.C. Because of their success, they kind of outgrew that facility and were looking for somewhere new to go. And they came across Coppercraft Distillery in Holland, Michigan. And while the distillery was great and the still was nice, and the taxes are very friendly in Michigan, I think, for producers of whiskey, I think that may have a bit to do with it. But the brand itself wasn't doing so hot. So Magnus was able to go in and buy that brand, redo all the recipes, do all their marketing, just relaunch the brand completely from the ground up. So then it became Magnus and now Coppercraft. Um, and then lastly, the most recent addition has been Fox and Oden. So tell you what, I tend to ramble a little bit. So before we get any further, I see some thirsty people in the room. If you would do me a favor, grab that American single malt from Fox and Oden. I would like to start with that one. For tonight, we're going to go American single malt, the rye, actually, we're going to do second. Then we'll do Fox and Oden bourbon, Fox and Oden double oak, and then we'll finish with the Coppercraft straight bourbon and then the Coppercraft barrel pick that you guys have a sample of. So when the folks at Craftco decided that they moved the Magnus operation to Michigan, and they got everything up and running. They got Coppercraft rebranded, recipes redone, got that brand up and running. Things are going well. They, let that go for a couple years, and then we're ready for a new project. And that's really kind of why we're here tonight, is to talk about the new project. Just making sure, got some notes here. Tasting order. Beautiful. Thank you for putting that up, Jane. Yeah. So the name Fox and Oden, everyone's always curious. I was told today, I was actually working in Anaheim today at a bunch of different hotels and resorts, and I had an account. Oh, Fox and Oden, that's such a cute name. How'd you come up with that? So the story behind the name is to kind of pay homage to Michigan. They're everything that Coppercraft does is very much tries to speak to the trade and the folks there in Michigan, and the blue collar, the work that goes in, the craftsmanship kind of leans in on that. So Fox and Oden is actually in reference to Oden Island, which is a small island in the northern part of Lake Michigan. Very, very small. No one even lives on it. But it's actually a natural, a nature preserve, protected kind of spot there for the different animals and plants and what have you that live there. And one of the inhabitants of the island is the red fox, which is not an endangered species, but a threatened species. And with it being a protected nature preserve, there's no hunting or anything like that on Oden Island. So the red fox and Oden Island, and it all kind of worked out and blended together. And so that's kind of how they came up with the name of Fox and Oden. So here I am rambling again. So American single malt in the glass. This is 100% malted barley, 94 proof. Just like everything that this whole company does, it's small batch. So you're talking 15, maybe 20 barrels blended to get any of their products. Cask on this is a new American oak. That might be switching on down the line. The team there is already kind of playing around with trying the American single malt in ex-bourbon casks and even maybe a sherry cask. But for right now, this is just new American oak. But I personally, to each their own. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the American single malts on the market. I did find myself drinking this one a bit during the summer, though. I like how the lightness of it. I get a lot of green apples, some honey. It makes a nice little whiskey smash. So very light, bright, easy to drink, but kind of fun. Doesn't have quite as much of that grain flavor as some of the malts that I've had out there from the American single malts, that is. But cheers, everyone. But yeah, so that is when they launched Fox and Oden, the first thing they came out with was bourbon. Their second expressions were the American single malt and the rye, and then their newest one is that double oak bourbon, which we'll get to a little bit later on. So the American single malt and the rye, which you're going to taste next, are actually both sourced from Middle West Distillery out of Ohio. So Middle West, I'm sure most of, probably if I had to guess, everyone in the room is familiar with MGP. Middle West is kind of taking a page out of MGP's playbook. I mean, not nearly to the size, but they have really kind of leaned in on producing liquid for up and coming craft distilleries, and the folks at Craftco have really enjoyed working with them and are looking forward to continuing to work with them in the future. They're putting out some great stuff, and it is nice to see, obviously Coppercraft has got their own still, and they're making their own juice. But as you some of you may know, they do a good amount of sourcing from MGP on the Coppercraft and Magnus line. So now we've got some other juice coming in from Middle West. So it's a lot of variety there. Kind of makes it a little bit more fun to play around with the different sourcings versus just the same MGP that they've been using since they really started. What are our thoughts on the American single malt?
To me, it smelled and almost even tastes like it's got some sherry influence to it. But it's interesting that it's just all virgin American oak. What's the age on this?
You're looking 4 to 6 years, kind of blended there.
And aged in Ohio?
Well, majority of that time, yes. There is additional aging happening in Michigan as well.
Okay. I can imagine the weather in Michigan isn't doing huge swings like it would in some other places. Or actually, in the winter, it gets really cold. So
it's really cold. I know that. And I would imagine peak summer months can probably get,
our Michigonian is not on the call today. Normally, he'd be yelling at the top of his lungs, telling us how things are. Probably snowed in.
That's fair. But yeah, I had a call with the master blender from Fox and Oden about a week or so ago. He would have liked to have been here, but he just recently had a child, and between work and a newborn and the time zone difference, I just couldn't quite get him to sign up for it, unfortunately. But I said, what was a motivating factor to do a single malt, American single malt? And he said that he felt like a lot of folks out there that are drinking Irish whiskey, Scotch whiskey, even Japanese whiskey, might be able to, gravitate towards something like this, and just the general amount of movement in the American single malt category was kind of between those two things. Some of the things that really motivated him to want to go into something of an American single malt. And yeah, hot category and lots of growth. So
is Nancy part of this brand, the Fox and Oden?
So good question. She's not directly, but it's kind of a cool story. So the master blender for Fox and Oden he was actually a chef. His background is in culinary, classically trained chef from the Chicago area, worked in high-end restaurants in Chicago for nearly 8 years, and decided he wanted to get out of the city and needed to change. So he actually went to work for Craftco at their tasting facility in Holland, Michigan, as their chef. So he comes in, he's new on the scene. They've got Joseph Magnus and Coppercraft going full steam, and COVID hits, and he loves the spirits and loves whiskey, and that's part of the reason he took the job. And he's a self-proclaimed nerd where he says he just reads and researches constantly. But long story short, COVID hits. He doesn't have a whole lot to do as the chef during COVID because their restaurant closes and their tasting room closes. So they started doing what a lot of distilleries did, and they started making hand sanitizer. And they had some hand sanitizer that they had. I don't know where they got it or had it made or whatever, but it apparently had a pretty unpleasant smell. So they said, just run it through the still, like just distill it. And that is his first time of working in the spirits industry directly. But between that and then just reading and nerding out as much as he can, and then more importantly, working under the same roof as Nancy Fraley, he just like a sponge, like absorbed as absolute much as he could. So he's taught, hand in hand from Nancy. Nancy's still in the facility quite often working on Magnus as well as Coppercraft. But she kind of showed him the ropes and taught him everything. That's kind of where he got his master blending and the skill set. So kind of crazy. Just kind of fell into it, right place at the right time, but he's doing a great job. Well, if you haven't done so already, I would recommend maybe reach for that rye, give the rye a little taste. It is 100% rye, 95 rye, 5% malted rye. So with that malted rye, it's going to kind of soften the edges a bit. Not quite as punchy as a lot of the ryes out there, but I think I get a lot of good feedback on this, and that it's unique for a rye. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think. It's about 5 years old on the rye. Same New American Oak, level 3 char. The malted rye, he said, adds a lot of earthy notes, more floral notes, and makes it a bit softer. So. Got a pretty nasty cold right now, so my palate is just wrecked.
This smells like cream soda. And then you take a sip of it and there's that big pop of mint.
Yeah.
Totally lost the vanilla on the palate. Very interesting.
Yeah. Get a good amount of spearmint on that for sure.
Yeah, it's like on the nose, I just get mint and vanilla.
But yeah, they said if anyone's ever up in Michigan, come and see them. They do have an awesome restaurant, nice tasting facility, a couple distillery exclusive items up there as well. If anyone does go, I recommend you try the Applejack. It's something you probably wouldn't normally try, but their Applejack is actually really good, and it's made with Michigan apples that are from an orchard not far from the distillery. So it's not like that artificial sugary apple flavor. It's very fresh. Kind of fun.
So just to bring it home, I guess, other than the investment side, there's really no overlap between Fox and Oden and the other brands.
I mean, they're all being aged, blended, bottled, all under the same roof.
Oh, other than that, as far as production goes, like you're saying it's a different. They're not sourcing from Copperworks, or Coppercraft, which is what I would expect.
No. They Middle West for the first two, and then MGP for both their bourbons.
Okay. And so Fox and Oden is a brand. It's not a distillery.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. This rye is really interesting. Why not source the rye from MGP as well?
I can't help but wonder if it's because they have MGP rye at Coppercraft,
Mm-hmm.
and so they wanted something different, different flavor profile. That would be my guess. I think that Fox and Oden very well may distill some of their own things here in the future, or may have some stuff that's laid down. That's is trying to get some extra age on it, but for right now, it's been with it being such a young company. Yeah, it's all sourced right now. I mean, I'm looking at the bottles in front of me. Granted, mine may not be exactly the same as yours, but the bourbon bottle I've got is from batch 9, but the American single malt, the rye, and the double oak bourbon are all batch 1 bottles. So this is just getting off the ground. If anyone wants to jump into the bourbon, we might as well, if you're ready for that. Don't mean to rush anybody, but
Question overall, and I'm sorry, I was distracted at the beginning, so I apologize if we mentioned this. Being sourced from a single place, and this goes across the SKUs, it sounds, and taking the double oak out, because obviously there you're affecting it, but essentially, what, and I'm trying to ask this in a way that doesn't come off kind of snooty or derogatory. I'm not trying to ask it that way, but what is it that you guys add to it to make it different? You know what I mean? If you're taking the sourced and not finishing in something.
No. It's an excellent question.
And I don't mean to be like it's the same thing, because I know it's different. And I'm trying to understand why. That's all.
Sure. I mean, I think that the biggest thing it comes back to is just the skill set that the master blender has been taught from Nancy, whether it be the slow proofing technique of taking many days to carefully proof down the whiskeys, to just the art of taking 15 to 20 barrels and blending them together to get a certain flavor profile that not only is what they want, but something that's consistent batch over batch, and kind of achieving a certain flavor. We talked a little bit on my call with him last week about a process or a concept called Petit O. Has anyone ever heard of that? And it's O like EAU French. They're actually, this is going to sound ridiculous, but they're actually aging water in ex-bourbon barrels and using that to like proof down their whiskeys. Like it sometimes when you talk to Nancy anyway, it almost sounds like they're making things more difficult than they should, because it just seems like so crazy to think of. But by doing that, aging water and then proofing things down at a slower rate over many days, if not over a month, whatever it may be, that's how they are able to keep the oiliness of the whiskeys and some of the mouthfeel, flavor components in some cases. So just little tricks of the trade, I guess you could say. And then just the blending of multiple barrels, I think, is kind of where a lot of the art comes in.
And then I guess it's obviously different from each one. And so maybe I could just ask about the bourbon, because a lot of people are doing MGP. Is there a profile there? Like, what is the idyllic profile we're going for here? I mean, what is the hope we're trying to achieve as we're blending it? Because obviously there's something in mind. So wondering what that is.
Sure. I mean, I think that they've often said from like the Joseph Magnus portfolios tends to be a bit bold and kind of in your face, pretty punchy. Fox and Oden is definitely going for more of a softer, rounder profile on all of their expressions. And I think that you'll probably see that tonight. I mean, I don't know how you felt about the first two, but to me, they're definitely like very round, very approachable. And that's kind of the style they're going for with the Fox and Oden line.
No, yeah, I haven't had the ride. I've had the other three. I've had the bottles. I will confess I drank through them both because I like them and for the space. No offense. But this bourbon, I'm getting what I remember, which is just like there's certain bourbons when you're like, oh, okay, somebody who knows what they're doing was doing this. That's there's that little coconut note to show that it's, you know, nice and aged, and then there's the nice sugary thing going on. And look, oh, it's oily. I don't even care what proof it is. I guess, yeah, it's almost 100 proof. It doesn't, you can't even care or know. It just seems easy. It's definitely well done. And I see what you're saying with the roundedness.
Yeah, the bourbon, just like you said, right under 100 proof, it'll sneak up on you because it drinks like a low 90s to me. But yeah, I mean, great question though, because it's intentional. They wanted to kind of shift gears from the other things that they've got going on underneath that roof and kind of go towards a different style. So, which is fun for me because there's, different people like different things, and I've got a bottle in the bag for pretty much every preference that there is. So this has been nice to have to kind of give those folks who like something a little bit more round, a little softer.
You talked about aging the water, but it's sort of like what anybody that lived around Bardstown, whenever they would get old barrels from the distillery, they put water in it, rolled it around the front yard, let it sit out there, rolled it around, and just tried to extract a little alcohol, the angel share back out of the barrels. And
Yeah.
in a way, being you're going to sell the barrels to Scotland at least for, to make scotch in the future, maybe that will bring them a higher price on the barrel. Who knows,
Yeah, you never know. I thought it was kind of an interesting nonetheless, because I'd never heard of such a thing. Petite O, they called it.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. But yeah, for those of you who are getting into the bourbon, that is a blend between an 8 and a 15-year-old bourbon. We've got 2 mash bills in there, the 75-21-4, and there's about 75% of the liquid is that mash bill. The other 25% is the 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley. So yeah, kind of a blend between 2 different mash bills, not to mention, like I said, 15 to 20 different barrels. So can get a little bit more moving parts the more you think about it, I guess. Especially not only getting it to where you like it, but then identifying the flavor profile you want and then trying to maintain that consistency batch after batch. For those of you with a long day, is this helping your day kind of mellow out a little bit?
I was gonna say, anyone who's done a blending class will attest to how hard it is to blend consistently for a flavor profile. It's way harder than it seems. Fun, but definitely not easy.
Yeah, I just recently started working with an Irish whiskey brand called JJ Corey. We got to blend a special batch of that here recently at our national sales meeting, and we're going to be selling it on the Speakeasy platform, which is based out of Southern California. So therefore, it falls on me to be responsible for setting it up and selling it and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, because of all that, they let me be the judge, and the rest of the company made the blend. It was quite the event. But it
I
turned out
like
great.
their whiskey.
Oh
that
yeah.
they- yeah. I've got a bottle that they aged at the Cliffs of Moher,
Hmm.
and really good. And because they moved it from the distillery to there, they weren't allowed to say it was an Irish whiskey.
Oh
So if you meet what's her name?
yeah, I know
The
exactly.
master blender. Yeah. If you meet her, ask her about that sometime.
Oh well.
And see yeah.
You're talking about Louise McGuane.
Louise.
Yes. Louise, yeah.
Exactly.
Vadim, you should pick that up. That name dropping. It's underneath you.
I may have the website open right here.
So yeah, the newest kid on the block for Fox and Oden is this double oak, and currently it's just it's the same bourbon that you've got in your glass now, and then they put it in a second oak barrel, new American oak for an additional 9 months. It's a level 4 char, which I don't think is referred to very often. I feel like level 3 is kind of where it tops out, but extra char, so you can even just hold the bottles up to one another and see the color there. This has been really well received in the market. Seems to steal the show a lot of times whenever I'm doing whiskey events and things of that nature. So hopefully you guys like it as much as the folks have that I've shown it to. But once again, 99 proof, the same 2 mash bills, 75% of that 75 corn, and then 25% of that high rye mash bill from MGP. So Fox and Oden double oak. Trying to think double oak bourbons. What else is out there? I know Woodford's got their double oak, which is kind of
Beam has one.
yeah.
Heaven's Door has one.
Yeah. And did Jefferson's just do one as well?
Mm.
No, I don't. I think I was reading about their Tropics and some other one they just came out with.
They had a twin oak.
Twin Oak.
Mm.
I think it was a twin oak. Did Tulu have a double toasted? It was a double toasted, not a double oak.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that I just recently learned that any bourbon that's finished in anything other than a new charred barrel is technically not bourbon anymore. So they put, like, the way it's written out, they don't write it on the same line. You can only call it still bourbon if it only touched new American oak. So the double oaked bourbons can still technically be a bourbon because it only touched new American oak. That's what I was recently told. And it was explained to me that way. So interesting. American laws.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious, where are we at? Bourbon versus double oak. What's the consensus here?
I like the double oak probably more so than the straight bourbon.
Yeah, the double for me.
I think it would depend on my mood the night. There's a cinnamon note here that's really lovely, but I think some nights I wouldn't want that, and I would want just the straightforward, rounded. But I think both are pretty great. This one is definitely a little bit more of a slow sipper for me. I think because of that spicy cinnamon note. The regular one I could pretty much just. I'll pretend a friend needs to be there, but just can see myself finishing a bottle, in a night.
Just guzzle that one down.
Yeah, it's pretty drinkable.
Yeah, for sure.
And if we have a cigar.
Oh, well, doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we put the when I got on the calendar here with the virtual tasting society, I thought, well, this is great, a good opportunity to get Fox and Oden in the mouths of some a few more folks out there, try to help introduce the brand to some people. But the big problem is there's only the 4 SKUs, and so I was trying to get something from them to any kind of any under the radar coming soon. Like let's even a just trying to get as creative as we could. But unfortunately, I had to just reach back into some of the other brands from within the same roof, so to speak. So you've got some Coppercraft samples there as well. I don't know if anyone's had Coppercraft before, but another one of our brands, and then that last one is a barrel pick that Jeff at OC Bottle Shop did, which we'll get into that last. Because
Speaking of OC Bottle Shop, I think Jeff brought in all the Fox and Oden expressions. So to make your lives a lot easier, you can find all of those at OC Bottle Shop, and he is giving us an exclusive discount when you're checking out. But VTS10, and you get 10% off, right?
correct.
In the coupon code, put VTS10, and you get 10% off any of the expressions we're tasting today, any and all.
Yeah. So I tried to ask a couple of questions that I thought maybe you guys would ask them if he was here. The master blender from Fox and Oden. Was it plans on any cast strength items? And I was so disappointed to hear no, not at this time. I thought what? But then he said you'd be surprised to find out that these barrels are actually pretty low proof. They're not really proofing them down an exceptional amount. Coming in closer to like 106. So the fact that they've got bourbons going out at 99, he's just like, yeah. So no plans for that. I think that the more exciting plans for Fox and Oden in the future is the incorporating some European barrels of some sort, whether it's Oloroso or PX or getting into that world. So I'm excited for that. Hopefully we'll get some of that sooner than later.
Are they all the same mash bill that he's blending from MGP, or is he getting different mash bills? Or do you
So
know?
2 different mash bills from MGP that he blends together. One's the high rye, one's the 7521. Yeah. I asked about other brands coming out of Middle West because I was just trying to think of it. Said High Plains Rye is coming out of there. OYO, so another Middle West brand. Middle West, the master distiller at Middle West comes from Maker's Mark as well, so it's got some good lineage there.
They also did a collaboration with Jenny's Ice Cream, which is based out of the area, to make their brown butter whiskey ice cream, which if you find it, it's fucking delicious. Like,
That sounds good.
super, super delicious.
Nice.
I'm looking at their website. They have a ported pumpernickel rye. That's weird. That's interesting. I don't know anyone else doing a pumpernickel whiskey.
Didn't Button Hook do that? Or am I making that up? Sorry, my mind just flashed that of one of the tasting from the past. I could be making that up.
Well, yeah, if you guys want to pour a little bit of that
Mhm.
Coppercraft, switch gears on you a little bit. Coppercraft is same roof, different brand. Nancy Fraley's in charge of this one. You've got a 97 proof straight bourbon from the folks at Coppercraft. I'll tell you that Coppercraft straight bourbon for you can pick that thing up at the store for high $50 all day every day. It's a pretty great daily drinker. Super tasty. You can use it in a cocktail and not feel terrible about doing so. Just a great whiskey, and it's becoming more and more available at more and more places. Even Ralph's, Safeway, Bevmo, Total. They've all jumped on the Coppercraft bandwagon, so it's a good one. do barrel picks on Coppercraft from time to time. Last year, OC Bottle Shop was able to get their hands on one of the 9-year-old cast strength barrels in his memory. Trying to recall, I remember selling that barrel to Jeff, and I want to say his team there, a couple of different cashiers, and a couple of customers that were in the store. We all kind of gathered up around the counter and tried about 4 or 5 different ones, and it was a lot of those barrel samplings are interesting because it can become a bit of a debate. But that day, for whatever reason, the stars aligned, and it was like everyone was just like, "This is it, this is it, this is it." So he definitely got himself a nice barrel for sure.
And
Have we got any whiskey events coming up before the holidays, or are we all done?
Every week.
Well, I meant like festival type events.
Oh, yes, you're the second person that asked this week, and to the best of my knowledge, I think all the festivals are done.
Yeah.
I think all the festivals try to wrap it up before the end of October.
Probably smart.
But we have we're doing a little Friendsgiving on the 25th. You're invited to.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
25th.
That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
after you've spent all the time with your family, you sleep it off on Friday and then bring the leftovers on Saturday to my house.
Nice. I know Vadim knows what I'm gonna say, so don't spill the beans. You guys know what I'm gonna open on Thanksgiving at my house for tastings and samplings. My very own, it's Thanksgiving, so I gotta have a little turkey. I got my very own bottle of the Virtual Tasting Society turkey. Pretty excited to try it. Figure, makes sense.
Sure.
Thanksgiving and all.
I think you'll really like that one.
What's that?
I think you'll like that one.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it'll be great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And if
Always
you
try
hate
to-
it, please tell Jordan. That's his fault.
Fair enough.
it's a Camp Nelson before we knew it was cool.
Nice.
That's right. That's right. For 1/3 the price.
Can't beat that. Can't beat that. No, I always try to have a nice bottle of wild turkey of some variety for Thanksgiving. So kind of a little tradition.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Last year we played a little game in the group of if you're setting the Thanksgiving table, and it can only be liquor, what are you bringing and what does it represent on the table? And people went all out. The turkey was the obvious one.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the one I took because it's easy.
Triple weight cranberry vodka.
People brought Chopin as the potatoes.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
there
know,
you
I
go.
still haven't got the plane ticket from you, Vadim, to come out there for your Friendsgiving.
It's in the mail. Speaking of which, let's take a shot. Let's take not a shot. Let's take a photo. Raise a glass. We got everybody on Zoom. I do want to say thank you to Mitch as always. You've been a big supporter of Virtual Tasting Society, and we love having you on. Thanks for introducing us to another one of your awesome brands. We look forward to supporting you and your whole portfolio as much as we can. But thanks to everyone for being here tonight. And everybody's busy now. But cheers to you all. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, so we live in a unique state where we can't just go to a liquor store and be like, oh, I'd like to try a little sample of that, because believe it or not, that exists in a lot of places in this country, but not in California. So thank you to Vadim for putting this together and giving us those of us in the industry a new avenue of introducing our brand and giving people an opportunity to try. It's always nice to be able to try before you buy. So hopefully you guys, well, at least one of the items spoke to you tonight, and it motivates you to go out and get yourself a bottle, or buy and get yourself a dram next time you see it on a back bar somewhere. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Silly question. The barrel that Jeff picked, that's the barrel he's currently selling, right? It's not like that was the one that came and went. That's this one. That's like in our sample.
Yes.
Oh, cool. I assume that. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than Total Wine, do you know of any other place that may be available in Florida?
Oh, which one?
Any of these?
Any of those?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'cause
I mean,
I've looked at Total Wine for Coppercraft and Fox and Oden, and neither one's available at my local Total Wine.
what part of Florida do you live?
The part that's lower Alabama in the Panhandle.
Oh, you broke up there a
Pensacola.
little bit. Pensacola?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom and dad live very close to there. At on 30A.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're in that area.
Yeah, I live in Navarre, which is almost midway between the two.
Okay. Yeah, so tell you what, I'll reach out to my counterpart in Florida and get a couple of stores in that area that are kind of like key accounts for us. And
Uh-huh.
I'll send it to Vadim, and I'll let him forward it on to you if that works for you.
That'll work.
Perfect. I'll make myself a note right now. What do we got here? Favorite expression of the night. Let the games begin.
Yeah, Jane's not even at the OC pick yet. She's just taking her time. Enjoy. We're not in a rush.
It's not even that. I would happen to have a little bit of the Fox and Oden double oaks left, and I poured the Coppercraft into the next glass, the straight bourbon, and I'm like, they're so similar. It was so bizarre to me that they were so close and that they're completely different. It was just kind of like blowing my mind. So I've been going back and forth, and I couldn't be bothered to like pour another sample. I was kind of stuck on the two of them.
You couldn't just hold the third sample with your third arm?
Well, I could, but that would be weird.
Who didn't vote? We got one left. Mitch, did you vote?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, we're waiting for Jane. Okay, good.
Here, I'll make a snap decision.
No. Take your time. We're not in a rush.
No, you're being whiny. Take it.
How long has Coppercraft been?
Don't let him pressure you, Jane.
Too late. It's already picked.
How long has Coppercraft been distilling? Approximately.
So they've been distilling for over 10 years, but not under current ownership.
Okay.
And if you recall, current ownership scrapped everything that they had.
Right.
So current ownership, I would say 6 years.
Okay.
Roughly. Don't quote me on that, but it's got to be in that wheelhouse.
I'm just very impressed because a lot of times when you have a newer distillery, there's a grass note or a note that I don't love, and I'm not getting it. So I'm enjoying it, definitely. Especially in it's not like you guys are, I don't want to say cheating, but like benefiting from a southern climate or something where you get a lot of heat for that. I mean, I know Michigan does get hot in the summer, but still not.
Yeah.
It's cold as fuck other times.
Super cold.
Jane, I looked for you in Kilkenny, Ireland, but I didn't find you anywhere.
Well, yeah, I'm still in LA. Yeah, no, oddly enough, my family actually came from Mayo. So alas.
Whenever I used to have to go to LA to work, there used to be a place in Santa Monica, Raphael's, and their slogan was, "We only look expensive or sound expensive," something like that. But of course, that whole building got torn down and is now probably a shopping center or something.
Common practice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, the OC pick is really good. What are you guys getting on the flavors on this? This is delicious.
I'm on a cinnamon kick tonight. That's all I'm getting out of everything. It's so good though.
The cinnamon is in the background for me. I'm actually getting fruit on this, like a nice cobbler pie or something. Very fall flavors. Like it's perfect timing for this.
I'll admit I did not. When I first put it in my mouth, I was like, I don't like the front at all. And then all of a sudden, I got to the middle of the end, and it ends so lovely. And for a long time, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But I definitely get like a vanilla cinnamon at the end.
Yeah, Jeff's had a good time with that pick. He's Coppercraft by no means is a family, not family, by no means is a household name. So, he gets people in there all the time looking for, the buzzwords of the whiskey industry. And he's talked a lot of people into, to take a chance on this, And he's gotten a lot of true believers out of it, which tends to be the case with a lot of our barrel picks.
All right, we got everybody's votes. You ready to see the results?
Yes, indeed.
Mitch, what do you think was the favorite bottle of the night? Including Jane's rushed decision that I take full responsibility for.
Jane voted rye.
I'm gonna say Fox Norton Double
Organic
Oak.
move. Rye.
Wow. It's been a long time since somebody got it right on the head. Well done.
Nice.
Double Oak took first place. Straight bourbon from Fox and Oden takes second. Wow. The rye and the straight bourbon, the rye and the bourbon from Coppercraft tied for third, and OC bottle shop pick bringing up the rear.
Well, the single malt didn't get a vote.
I think for me personally, I don't get to vote, but for me it's I prefer malts in ex bourbon, not virgin oak. But that's because that's just my palate, and I get it. It's nice to have the leeway to do both.
Yeah.
The freedom in America that you can do it either way. But that's just where my palate goes. But this one was really good. This one was interesting, and like I said, it tasted fruity and interesting. It wasn't over oaked, which you get a lot with virgin oak.
Yeah.
So that was good. They have a lot of room to play with it. I can't wait for the second and third expression of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, sounded to me like that's probably going to be their next move is playing around with the finishes on the American single malt. So when those get launched, I'll be sure to get you a sample to give it a try. So might be more.
Yeah, I'm making right now. I've somehow fallen on a mission to create a collection of American single malts. So trying to put together every single malt I can find. So do a tasting and then have a bottle to also set aside. And then one day we'll do like a huge where has single malt come from type of deal.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that could be really cool.
Yeah.
I should talk to you about getting Nancy Fraley for an event that I'm putting together in the beginning of March. That we'll talk about when we hit pause on the recording. But I think it could be a really fun event.
Cool. Yeah.
Aren't
Somebody's
American single malt people are going to just be like really missing corn all the time, like crying.
Only you.
You know what you should do? You should do it, but make the cups shaped like corn. Just to fuck with everyone.
No,
Corn cups with malt inside.
just you have to have an open mind. Come on.
I do. I do it.
I love the American single malts, and I also love the corn. Yeah. Except for mellow corn. No.
Look, Jordan talks smack, but last time I went to his house, the only thing we drank the whole night was single malt.
One drink. I have like, come on, I got.
Did I lie though?
True. I got like 50.
One drink.
He buys the single malt for you, Vadim.
It's true.
We all know it. Come on.
Otherwise, you'd never hang out with me.
All facts, all facts. No lies have been said tonight.
I'm pretty sure
that's not true. And I found out yesterday my new boss loves bourbon, hates malt.
Huh?
Straight up hates malt. I'm like, somewhere Vadim just collapsed.
I was wondering what hurt my heart last night.
Right?
My chest was hurting. I didn't know what was going on. I could feel a disturbance in the force. That's what it was.
I love them all.
It's okay. He is now your project. I hear you like those. Teach him.
Get him converted.
That's right. Look, we all gonna be like Jordan. He loves it all. He drinks it all as long as it's tasty and delicious.
Tasty, delicious Asian wood. We're good.
That's it. Awesome. Well, Mitch, thank you so much. Any questions? Anyone want to participate? Feel free to unmute yourselves. Ask any questions of Mitch. Other than that, we'll just turn off the recording and hang out. But this has been really delicious. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Glad you enjoyed it.
Mm.
Mitch, one question. The Joseph Magnus, that was done in Bardstown, wasn't it?
No.
Oh.
I mean,
I'm probably talking years ago.
see, that's the thing that there since the relaunch, since the since 2015.
Re-ownership, yeah.
No, I mean I think that they may have met in Kentucky and done the unveiling and done the tasting and did their the who's who of the bourbon industry and kind of started workshopping the creation of it. But yeah, all the Magnus stuff is MGP, and it is either been aged and blended and packaged and all that in either Washington DC, or in Holland, Michigan.
I'm going to have to go dig up a bottle. Not that I don't believe it. No, it's just it has been a long time ago, probably under previous ownership.
Grassy Notes just came out in the OC pick. That's interesting.
I have a question for Mitch. So you said something about, I know distilling and sourcing both Joseph Magnus and Fox and Oden, but you said something about they were laying their own product down. Is that just Fox and Oden, or is that Joseph Magnus and Fox and Oden are distilling, but they having to wait on,
Sure.
obviously the time?
No, great question. Coppercraft and Fox and Oden both have their own distillate laid down. I mean, some of the Coppercraft is actually bottled their own distillate. They have some of their own juice in many of the items that they have in market right now. Fox and Oden has stuff laid down, but nothing on the market. Magnus, no, everything's sourced.
And always will be. They have no distillery.
Correct.
Okay. Is Nancy Fraley a partner in Coppercraft, or is she just a big part of it?
She is the master blender for Coppercraft and Joseph Magnus.
Where did Nancy come from?
She's from Northern California. Nancy's a very interesting woman. She's got a master's degree from Harvard in international law. She's got a degree in Tibetan Buddhism from Berkeley. She used to she lived in France for a number of years, where she, hung out in the cognac houses and kind of fell in love with different whiskeys. Ended up going back to Northern California and worked for Germain Robin, the
Oh.
brandy house.
That's probably where, yeah,
A lot of her knowledge and a lot of her skills she acquired there. Then you partner that with some of her just personal, she's got a photographic memory of her palate. Like, she can tell you exactly how something tasted that she had 8 years ago at she's a savant. I mean, she's got her own business, Nosing Services LLC, and she literally gets hired from distilleries across the country. She is a problem solver.
Yeah.
You've got something that's just not quite right. You can't figure it out. You got a certain note. You've got a certain flavor. You got something's just not where you want. She can come in and she can fix it. I mean, she's built her career out of doing just that. And
I used to have, I think I still got one bottle left. Maison Serin cognac
oh, wow.
is just fantastic. I first tasted it at the New Orleans Wine and Food Experience.
Mm.
And I'm like, I have to have this. And that was it. Yeah.
Nice. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of that myself. Sounds delish.
Well, I'll tell you what, the single malt has sure opened up nicely. This is delicious.
Finally, somebody shows the single malt some love.
Well, it took a minute.
Always interesting how that happens.
How are you feeling about the rye, Jane?
It's a rye.
Jen is notorious for rye not agreeing with her palate.
That's
She keeps
fair.
trying though. We'll give her credit. She keeps trying. It
I
will
really
be
like-
Stockholm syndrome eventually.
I really like the minty notes on that rye. That was really, and it was smooth and it had a really nice feel about it, soft and yeah, real good.
Definitely one of the mintiest ryes we've had in a while.
Definitely. I added a couple drops of water and it tasted just like spearmint juicy fruit. I mean, Wrigley's spearmint gum. It was really brought out the mint in it.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we can turn off the recording and just hang out and talk crap about everyone. So thank you everyone for being here tonight. Thank you, Mitch, for introducing us to all these brands and everyone for sharing your tasting notes. Cheers to you and see you next week.